Welcome back to the Chosen Life podcast. He is back. It's been several weeks. He's been on hiatus. I think he was climbing Mount Pichu, and he is back at Doug Laurie Sports. He is the one and only Wayne Frazer. I'm Jonathan A. Hacohen, author of the book The Bible 3.0. And Wayne, I'm confused as we start today's episode. Did I miss the notes, or did Wayne Gretzky play for the Red Wings at one point?
That's actually I hung that up just because I think it's pretty cool. That's actually a kid size Sue Greyhounds jersey from when he was in the OHL. I've never had one before, and I mean it's not of any great value, but it is pretty cool. I just think it's a neat thing to have around, right? So
So if I was to find a game used original Wayne Gretzky Sioux Greyhounds jersey, that might be worth a couple dollars.
you know, I don't know of the existence of any. I'm sure maybe somebody has one somewhere, but OHL teams, right up until relatively recently, were very, very big on recycling their jerseys from year to year because they were so expensive for the team. I wouldn't be surprised if Wayne has one somewhere, maybe Sean Chalk, who is kind of the biggest Gretzky guy in North America. But I don't even know that Sean has one, and I don't think I've ever seen one being discussed in the wild. I think if you came up with a legitimate one that you could photo match, it would be a half million to $1 million jersey would be my guess, somewhere in that ballpark.
Now, were you tempted to bid on those the attic find of the Wayne Gretzky year unopened boxes, cases of cards that came up? I when I saw that, I sent it to you right away, right away. Did you contact them at all, or did you know that was going to go for crazy money?
Well, I mean, I got to tell you, I know I look like I'm just have money falling out of my pockets, but pretty much right off the bat, you knew that was going for a couple $3 million. It's really not worth that. The problem is that in a case like that, there's 16 boxes. The way the collation works based on the size of the set and everything else, almost every box is going to have two Gretzky's rookies in it. So say there's 30 in the case if you were to open it. The issue is not that there are 30 Gretzky's in that case. The issue is that the vast majority of them are going to do no better than a graded 8 right out of the pack because they're all known to be off center, to have the fuzzy sides because of the guillotine blades, chippy corners, and they really don't count the fuzzy sides against you, but still. And a PSA 8 Gretzky, I don't off the top of my head, I don't know what it is, but I'm guessing it's probably say it's $50,000. So let's just say that's the number. Well, if you get 15 sevens and 15 eights, 15 eights returns you, $750,000, and the rest of them return you another 250, and you're upside down $2.7 million. What you're hoping for is you're going to get a 10 out of there, but realistically, the real thing is that somebody's buying that just to say they have it. I don't know who the purchaser was. It wasn't made public, I don't think. But you have the only one in existence that anybody knows of that potentially could have 30 PSA 10s in it. I mean, the odds of that happening, of you even getting one. I mean, there've only been two that I'm aware of so far out of I mean, it's not like there's a shortage of that card. There's a lot of 7980 O-Pee-Chee out there. And we can talk about current cards right now with the current Connor Bedard craze with the young guns. We can discuss that if you want to. But there's no shortage of Gretzky rookies out there. The shortage is for cards that are an 8 and above. And even 8s don't get that kind of money. So this is uh, what's the polite way to say this? Wiener measuring contest between a few people to say, hey, I've got the only one of these. My understanding of that situation also is not that they didn't know that they had anything. It's that they thought this case was the following year's
Right,
cards.
right.
Yeah, which would still be a $150,000 case, right? Because it's got Messier, Bork, Mike Gartner are rookies in that set. And the second year Gretzky stuff too. Still be a very expensive case. It's just when they decided to do something with it, they were told, Oh, now the other thing is too, the chances of this being fraudulent are very small. But remember, Jake Paul bought what he thought was an unopened case of the first edition Pokemon for 1.6 million or something like that. And when they opened it up, it was full of 1991 GI Joe cards, and that had been certified as untampered with, right? So, is it possible that somebody's pulled a switcheroo here? It is possible. It's highly unlikely. This is more just I have the only one, and I have $3.7 million that don't really mean anything to me. So I'm going to buy this. Do I think there's growth potential in it? Not really. Um, I think if it were to sell again, it would probably sell for the same thing or slightly less. But
So let
some
me
dude's got the only one, right? So
So let me ask you, if you ended up, if let's say you bought a house and you were living in the house and you found a year or two later, you were, cleaning up the attic, the old owners left some stuff in there and you found this magical carton of Gretzky year rookie cards and all sorts of other goodies inside that case. What would you do? Would you sell it? Would you keep it the way it is, or would you sit there and start opening up each of the packs?
there's no way I'd open it. I open almost nothing myself, and that's another discussion we can have on a different day. Um, it's almost never that you buy something at market value, open the boxes, and do better than you would have of just leaving it sealed. I definitely would not have kept it though either. Um, you know, as neat as it is, again, somebody is very pleased. They're $3.7 million worth of pleased to have this case of cards. But to me, I could do a heck of a lot more with $3.7 million good in the community and things like that than I can to have this one, case of cards sitting there. There would be some discussion as to whether or not you would break the case open and sell the sealed boxes off. And I would imagine sealed boxes are couple $100,000 each, something like that. You're still losing money overall on the case, but I would, you would at least consider that. But the person who had this case, they did the right thing. I'm pretty sure it was Kenny Golden and Golden Auctions that sold it, that auctioned it off. And in most deals like this, there's you have your whatever your final value is for the piece plus the buyer's premium. And in most instances like this, big auction houses will say, okay, well, there's a 22% buyer premium. We'll give you 12 more percent on top. You'll get 112% of the sale because it's great advertising for them and it's prestige. Plus, Kenny's got his TV show, right? But 10% of 3 million, you're still making $300,000 for putting some pictures up on a website, essentially, right? And brokering the deal. So they absolutely did the right thing. And truthfully, I'm in a situation where I have a customer who has a couple of cards that are north of $100,000 that I'm help broker with. And if you're thinking about it out there, no, they're not here on site in the store. I don't keep anything like that around here. Thank you very much. Um, but even in those situations, um, you know, he has a card that will sell for probably about $150,000 Canadian. Um, and I've advised him that I think maybe the best thing to do is just run it with Kenny because you're going to end up getting the money. You don't have to worry about it. They handle the shipping and the contact and all that. I'm putting feelers out there if somebody really wants to show up with that kind of money, and I'll just put them directly in contact with my consigner and let them do the deal amongst each other. Um, but I mean, that's a matter of, I sold a set of Vesna rookie, 10-11, about $14,000. And that guy actually flew in from Nova Scotia and met my buddy at the airport, bought him a sandwich and a coffee. They took pictures with the cards together. And because it was cheaper than shipping the product, and because I'm not putting $14,000 worth of stuff in the mail, now let's multiply that by 10, right? You want that card, you're going to have to come here to get it, or we're going to have to make some sort of arrangement, right? So I absolutely would have done the same thing that they did. Whether you use somebody like Kenny or Leland's or whoever, or Classic Auction, Mark Juteau, which is the big one in Canada, they're all going to do pretty well for you.
That's the wonderful world of memorabilia. Wayne, I could talk to you about memorabilia all day, and I generally do. So now imagine, and today's topic, that we take this idea of collecting memorabilia, except that we are billionaires and our memorabilia is real life players. Okay. Now, in today's week, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks for a couple weeks now because I'm really, really, really fixated on this NFL offseason, what's been happening. So I think the big winner of the NFL offseason so far has been the Pittsburgh Steelers because they have bought some great memorabilia on pennies on the dollar, literally. I am absolutely loving new look quarterback look for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to run out there Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. I have quite a few notes I took over here as to why I'm enjoying this, but let's go step by step. First of all, Wayne, your reaction as to Pickett, Trubinsky, Rudolph are out, Wilson, Fields are in. Happy, not happy? What's your reaction, my friend?
I think if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you have to be pleased with this. Kenny Pickett, it appears, sort of forced his way out with his mouth. Um, and it seems like he wanted out. And you look, I can't necessarily blame him given how the offense was run for a certain portion of the time that he was there. But on the other hand, if you have the chance to totally turn your quarterback room, your quarterback position over, and you can get Russell Wilson for the league minimum and make the Broncos eat all that money. And then you can get Justin Fields for what essentially is nothing, almost
Six,
nothing, right?
six
Well,
round.
it could be a fourth if he starts, but still a fourth for a guy who, what was Fields? Fields was top five, top
Take
10, something like that. I mean, he clearly
yes.
was. He was one of the guys that when you look at quarterbacks, the way quarterbacks are looked at in the draft now, which is overvalued, but whatever. Um, I mean, Justin Fields was a huge acquisition for the Bears, right? He was the guy. And then it's not too different to what Kenny Pickett faced in Pittsburgh, which was a lot of uncertainty in the coaching staff in terms of like who the offensive coordinator is going to be, who's the play caller, what style do we want to play, right? And not having a whole lot around him aside with Deontay Johnson being hurt and all those sorts of things. Pickett, it's good for him to move on. That's fine. Do I think Russell Wilson is going to be great in Pittsburgh? He wasn't bad last year. I mean, he had a 98 quarterback rating. He was 26 touchdowns and 8 picks, I think. Again, playing in a system that one wasn't really set up for the way that Russell Wilson is normally expected to play. Now, that's a question about whether he's a fit in Pittsburgh then or not, but we'll talk about that. Um, I think the problem there was that Sean Payton just didn't like him from the start, right? And he made it relatively clear. Russell Wilson did not play at a high level last year, but he was certainly not bad. And now you've brought him in to be what I would consider to be a game manager. Um, but you've got Harris and Warren as two very good running backs. You're upgrading your offensive line. Defense is good. They're going to win a lot of games 20-17, 17-14, and that's fine. People have to remember last year, I don't think anybody expected Pittsburgh to be any good at all. Like I think there was a whole lot of question, and if they got to be 7-10 or 8-9, like Tomlin would have done a good job. 10-7. The pieces are there. They really are there. The one thing that was really holding them back was quarterback play overall and injuries and that sort of thing. So I think Russell Wilson is a great signing for them at $1 million or 1.2, whatever the league minimum is. But the better pickup is Justin Fields. Wilson is he's going to be acceptable there at the least. But I really do not feel like he's going to be the starter for the entire year. I think that some point during the year Fields takes over and he's good. And all of a sudden you have the question becomes, does Pittsburgh then pick up a 5th-year option for 20 something million, or do they renegotiate or something like that, right? But I mean, how can you fault them for doing this? it immediately upgrades your team. You're not going to be worse than you were last year. You took the one big negative that you had and turned it into at least average, right? And controllable. The question to me is, they're going to want to run the ball a lot. They're going to want to run to dump. They're going to run dumps a lot, right? They're going to run. That's still not Wilson's game, and that's what the Broncos tried to make him. They tried to make him more of a pocket passer. I don't know that that's going to succeed very well with the Steelers. The difference is the Steelers have the team to overcome that. Whether Wilson is just okay, the Broncos absolutely did not, and so it's going to make Wilson look better by the surrounding cast, no matter what. I just don't think he's going to last the whole year.
Well, Fields we're gonna get to in a moment, and next week I want to get into the all the ex-Pittsburgh Steeler quarterbacks and what their futures are. But I want to discuss Wilson first, and you look at the money aspect of it. It feels like he's been a disaster, quote unquote disaster, for years. He wasn't there relatively that long, Wayne,
No,
and so 1.2 million. They get him at 1.2 million. Let's do this math a little bit. We're talking about Wayne Gretzky cards earlier and good investment, not good investment. And if you get the perfect Gretzky's, you still may end up 2 million short. Well, imagine for the Broncos, $254 million. Okay, 254 million. This is remember when franchises were worth 50 million. And now they're in the billions. But 254 million is still a lot of money. 85 million dead over the next 2 years. Okay. Wilson's not speaking badly about the Broncos. Why? He got a $50 million signing bonus, annual salaries of 48 million each year, and they gave up essentially 8 players for him, including 2 first rounders, 2 second rounders. Okay, considering that Justin Fields cost them a 6 rounder, maybe a fourth, and this buddy cost them 8 players in total, including 2 first rounders. So the Broncos went all in for him. And it's like buying a brand new Maserati and deciding I'm not going to put premium gas in this thing. I'm going to put diesel in there. This is going to be a diesel car now, and I'm just going to put my diesel fuel, and this car can run on diesel. And then the car keeps stalling on them. They're saying, why isn't this car running properly? And Russell Wilson is not 45 years old, and it wasn't that long ago that he was at the top of the charts because hey, it was 2 years ago that they gave up this much for him. So I agree with you. I think that at 1.2 million, it's a no-brainer. You know what? What's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario, he's just thrilled to be there. He mentors Justin Fields for a year. Fields takes over at some point during the year. Like I agree with you. Wilson goes on after this year because also I don't Justin Fields played in Chicago for 3 years. He's used to that friggin' cold. I was just there this year, and I watched the Falcons and Bears in Chicago on a cold day, so I know what that's like. Fields knows what it's like. I think Russell Wilson, after 1 year and feeling Pittsburgh in the winter, will say, "Yeah, I'm off to be a backup in Tampa or something." I don't think he's gonna love, and I don't think Kiara's gonna like either. Kiara. I don't think his wife is gonna be loving the cold there either. And it takes a special person to want to play in the friggin' cold outdoors when when you may lose your extremities. So I think this was no risk, and it's a huge upgrade over what they had. They had interesting kind of pieces, but they had a bunch of interesting pieces, which the sum of it isn't very much. I'd rather have less players and higher quality than what they had. So I agree with you. I think it was a no-brainer to do it. I think he's going to be a great mentor. But the real interesting piece here is Fields. Wayne Fields, when he is on, and I got to watch him, granted against a very weak Falcons team, but buddy, he looked like a Pro Bowler that day. And when Justin Fields is on, he's a real nice player. Bears fans are not that happy today. They wanted their leader to stay. What were the Bears thinking? Why is Justin Fields no longer in Chicago?
well, it 100% boils down to them being handed the number one pick by Carolina this year, and they're going to take Carol. They're going to take Caleb Williams. Um, I think as a pro quarterback, I like Justin Fields better than Caleb Williams. I'm sorry. Caleb Williams has some outstanding qualities, right? His accuracy is off the charts. He's a winner. He also has just some sort of weird qualities about him that people don't want to talk about a whole lot. And I don't want to say they're character issues. They just seem to be kind of like, doesn't seem to be 100% committed sometimes or whatever. Um, but a guy that I trust for quarterback uh, analysis is Merrill Hodge. He used to play in the NFL and that. And he says that he thinks that Williams has some issues with uh, processing, that he's just not, he doesn't process well. He, his thing is that he says Williams for sure, and another guy that I actually like to listen to now is Ryan Leaf, who is a pretty good analyst now, right?
I
And
heard
if
him on
you
the
can,
NFL Network.
yeah,
He's pretty brash.
he just did. I think it's already over with, but a couple of weeks ago, if you look it up, he did a guest spot on the Dan Patrick show where he talked about a lot of this kind of processing stuff and things like that. But Merrill Hyde said there are two guys that have come out in maybe the last 6 or 7 years that he thought were ready to step in and be day one starters in the NFL. Only two that would be successful. And they were Joe Burrow and CJ Stroud. And that's it, right? And he said, look, Caleb Williams is probably going to develop into a pretty good pro quarterback. Is he a franchise quarterback? Depends on whether he's able to pick this other stuff up. He does not throw to the open man, though. Williams tends to throw the ball downfield. And Hodge said, look, what if you all the things you want to say about Tom Brady, you know, what made Tom Brady the greatest quarterback in NFL history, arguably, right? Most successful, is that Tom Brady would get a game plan and he would execute the game plan to absolutely 100% accuracy, which meant that if they were playing two deep safeties or whatever else, and what was available was the slant, the check down, Brady would throw that 6 times in a row, 7 times in a row, not caring. We're just going to dump. We're going to dump. We're going to dump. We're going to dump. And everybody gets frustrated with that. But what does that do? It means that at some point you have to pull the safeties up and now you get your deep shot. And Brady was good enough to hit it, right? Williams is not that guy. And Hodges' contention is that those guys don't learn. They don't eventually develop that. Maybe they get better at it, but they're not natural at it, right? And that's what made Burrow and Stroud ready right away, was that they would take whatever you gave them immediately. Even though they were supremely talented physically, they understood that once you got to the pro game, they were applying that even at college. Just take what they give you. Because at the pro game, there are not going to be 3 yards of separation between your guy and whatever else. You've got to take whatever the defense gives you, right? So I think there's some real question as to whether Caleb Williams, and you just went down this road. You just took Justin Fields, and then Fields was in a terrible situation there. They had terrible play calling. They had terrible coaching. They kind of threw him under the bus once, and then tried to make amends with him. And he's trouble coaching. No, he's not trouble coaching, and everything else. The guy that comes out smelling best in all of this is Fields, because he got the hell out of there, and he gets to go play for Mike Tomlin and a really good organization in the Steelers. But that's the reason he's gone. And are Bears fans happy about this? I don't know. Ask me when they draft Caleb Williams #1 overall, right? The smart thing to me would be, look, if you think that Fields is not your guy, if you think he's not going to be a franchise quarterback, and you think that Williams is, that's your assessment as a franchise. You absolutely did the right thing. You got whatever you could for Fields. You did the right thing for Fields by moving him on, and now you're going to go take Caleb Williams. If you believe that, then this is a good move. But I can't see as a Bears fan how you have any faith in the management to do the right thing here, right? You just did this, and then you hamstrung Fields for 3 years. Or is it going to be any better with Caleb Williams? Is Caleb Williams going to be any good in Chicago in that weather? He's a USC guy. Is he going to play well there? I don't know. What I would really like to see, and this would almost be like friggin' draft day, the Bears go up there and announce that they've traded the #1. And they go out and pick up a different quarterback or they go get a somebody on in free agency or make a deal, but they trade back and get a first this year, a first next year, you know, a couple of other things. They're not good enough that one quarterback is going to fill the void. They need a bunch of guys.
Wayne. I'm loving everything you're saying today, and not that I don't almost every day, but today we are on right on par. And you know what this trade makes me think of? Makes me think of the New York Islanders and how the New York Islanders did business. And they had a guy by the name of Roberto Luongo. Okay, and Luongo was a great up and coming goalie, and they said, you know what? Luongo is not good enough for us, so we're just gonna get rid of him and get Rick DiPietro, and this is the answer. But you put them in this situation, and you're not even sure if he's a better goalie or not. But if the one goalie failed in the one system, why should the other one succeed? And Fields was happy to be there. Caleb Williams said he does not want to go to Chicago, so this is not a good gift for him. My thinking is like this, Wayne. Exactly like you were saying. You go ahead and trade Fields for literally pennies on the dollar. You're getting a sixth rounder, maybe a fourth if he plays 51% of the plays, offensive plays. Fine. Trey Lance went for a fourth round pick with the Cowboys, and I don't think anybody would dispute for a second they'd rather have Field over Lance this stage any day of the week. No question, none. So if Fields is it only able to do what he's able to do that system with that coaching, why would it be any different for Williams? Except Fields is already there. Fields is beloved by the fans and his teammates. So now I would take that first round pick. I presume you're going to get more than a sixth rounder for it. You're not going to trade a first round pick for a sixth round pick. What you're going to get is you're going to get multiple players and multiple picks because everybody likes the excitement. The same way you get a case and carton of unopened hockey cards, you don't know how many Gretzkys you're getting. That's what people feel like with Caleb Williams. Oh my God, I'm getting the next Brady. I don't know. People tend to overvalue prospects, especially draft picks these days.
Yep.
So get a whole bunch of players and things around the system for Fields. I would love that thinking, but I got to give the Bears credit here. They were apparently they had four other teams interested. They could have gotten more for Fields. They talked with Fields and his agent. They want to put him in the right situation. And keep in mind, they gave up two first round picks and two other picks, a fifth and a fourth for Fields originally to get him. Which, you think about how the 49ers gave up so much to get Trey Lance, originally, but you had our boy, right? You
Mhm.
had Brock Purdy. And when Brock Purdy's playing like that, you're like, okay, let's go all day long. That's fine. We'll live with this. This was not a case where there was a Brock Purdy per se that was a proven winner now, and you really had no choice with it. You're taking a first rounder. There's so many question marks, which really at the end of the day, if he does well, I think he'll be on par with Fields. I don't think he's going to exceed him. I got to watch a little bit of clips of him, and it's that attitude that's worrying, that Zion Williamson type entitlement. I don't see this going really, really well. Wouldn't have the Bears been better to keep Fields, sign Russell Wilson for $1.2 million, and trade that first round pick and get a bunch of pieces? If I'm a Bears fan today, I know I'm excited now that, okay, let's see what happens during the draft. Let's see how this player plays out. But I just don't see this marriage ending very well. And you traded him to a rival, division rival, and you're gonna watch Fields potentially be an all-star for 5 to 10 years in Pittsburgh. That's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I don't. They absolutely are going to take Williams number one overall. I mean, they've backed themselves into that corner because are you going to play Brett Rippon? Are you going to play Tyson Bagent? I mean, those are the only two other quarterbacks you have on the roster. And if you're going to do that, that's fine. You're just not going to be very good, which you weren't very good last year, right? People forget they actually were 7-10. They weren't horrible, right? And they had injuries in the backfield, and they had this and that. You know, I mean, that team now they got DeAndre Swift. They have DJ Moore as their number one receiver. Keenan Allen is there. They have some of the pieces, but you have these pieces, and you're going to bring in Caleb Williams, and you're going to throw him into the starting role. He's not going to, this is not a developmental team, is what I'm saying. I think if they had done something like you're saying, if they had brought in Russell Wilson, if they'd have brought in Sam Darnold, if they'd have brought in Jacoby Brissett, you know, do that. And at the very least, let's just for the sake of the trading the pick, you bring in Russell Wilson for a year, and now everybody thinks, oh, maybe they're not going to take Caleb Williams. And maybe now you develop 5, 6, 7, 8 teams who are willing to do what Carolina did last year, which is just throw the kitchen sink at you. We want him, we want him, we want him, right? If you think that Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, the excitement around those two, that's nothing compared to Bryce or to Caleb Williams. You might get 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a good player or two, and then you wait a year, right? Or you make sure that that first rounder you're getting is later on, and you get Michael Penix Jr. or somebody like that, somebody that's a little bit more of a developmental quarterback. I just the whole thing boils down to I just don't think you can have any faith in the Bears management.
I'll say this much. I didn't think about this because I know we're going to talk about this next week, but I would have been happier for the Bears' perspective if they, in order, if they had gotten Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, or Mitch Trubisky, and get them on the team and have somebody to take over as a starter initially and bring Caleb Williams along. Pickett, let's say this would have been a trade for Fields for Pickett and some sort of draft pick. Pickett on the Bears with a chip on his shoulder, potentially a starter. That would have been more interesting to me.
I agree with you, but you can't put Kenny Pickett in that situation and draft the number one quarterback right behind him. Because what you're basically saying is Pickett is not, I mean, this isn't even a salvage job, other than maybe you have issues with his mouth or his how loyal he's going to be to the franchise or something. But Pickett is not like a bum or anything like that. If you were bringing Pickett in, you were bringing him in to give him a legitimate shot to be your guy down the road. And I think if you bring him in and then then you draft Williams, you're immediately saying, well, you're a placeholder here for 6 or 8 weeks, right? Oh my God, could you imagine if they brought Trubisky back? I mean, Chicago fans would have been jumping into the river, assuming it's not on fire this week. Um, I mean, I'm happy for Trubisky, and we'll talk about that in the next time around. We'll save it for that. But boy, would that have been hilarious. Yeah, we're going to bring him back to be the placeholder for a year, right? And then he comes back and he's good. Wouldn't that be amazing? I would love that.
If I'm going to tell you, if I had to go into my crystal ball, Wayne, and tell you Caleb Williams, what that situation looks like, I feel like this is Kyler Murray all over again. I feel like this is going to be a S show in Chicago. But they are talking about getting a new stadium, by the way, which, good on them. But I got to say, man, walking, the 10 miles you got to walk from the parking to get to the stadium and at Soldier Field and sitting there with Bears fans. They're pretty knowledgeable fans. They're pretty cool fans to hang out with. They really, really hate the Vikings. I've learned that along the way as well. But I think it's going to be a long, long season in Chicago. And when Pittsburgh wins 10, 11 games this year and Chicago wins 5, it's going to be a long season in Chicago. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to talk about the all the cast-offs from the Steelers and where they landed and what their futures are. And this is Wayne Frazer of Doug Laurie Sports. I'm Jonathan A. Hacohen, and we'll see you back soon on the Chosen Life podcast.